everybody, and welcome to the channel. It's Paulie Esther here, and today the devs released the November developer update, and let's get right into it. Coming soon, new customization, Trickster update, some map updates, and a change to made for this. Read more in general, but also in our blog post. Let's go to blog post first, and then there's some answers in here I want to cover from the tweet as well. So here we go, November developer update. The end of the year is almost upon us, but we've still got news to share. In this developer update, we'll cover some of the new features and balance changes making their way to the game in our next update, including a new customization option, a sizable update to an existing killer, and gameplay passes for 2 realms. Player cards. A new customization option has arrived. Player cards are decorative banners and badges which appear in the top right corner of various menus. Your player card will also be featured in the post-match scoreboard so other players can see them as well. Banners and badges can be mixed and matched as you please, and higher rarity ones will be more detailed, with some even being animated. Like other cosmetics, you'll be able to earn them in various ways, such as events, through the Rift, through login rewards or promo codes, and so on. With this update, we've also cleaned up the menus and moved your player level and grades to a new player profile screen accessible by clicking on your badge. Okay. A small section of the player card options will be available starting with this update, but you can expect to see a wider range of choices appearing over time. I completely forgot that they announced this on the anniversary stream. King was telling me, yeah, but one of the player cards coming. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. It was like a Mandela effect for me. I didn't remember them talking about it at all. I guess because the anniversary stream was just jam-packed full of stuff, but he remembered it and he even made a video about it, so it's coming to fruition now. All right, next, the Trickster. When he's not working on his next album, he's following his other passions, throwing a boatload of knives at survivors. In this update, we're aiming to address points of frustration for both sides. For killers, many feel like the Trickster doesn't quite stack up to the other ranged options. For survivors, dodging blades could feel inconsequential, since so few would injure you, making it feel unavoidable. We'll be making a series of balance and quality of life changes to our resident rapid-fire ranged killer. Rapid fire. The Trickster's fast-paced attacks are what set him apart from other ranged killers, so we wanted to focus on this rapid-fire machine gun gameplay for this update. We asked ourselves, what's better than throwing a bunch of knives? Answer, throwing even more knives. The Trickster now throws 4 blades per second, up from 3 blades per second by default, and his throw rate no longer increases with each blade thrown. To keep this feeling fair for survivors, we've also increased the laceration meter to 8 hits, up from 6, as well as decreased the time before it decays to 10 seconds, which it was 15 seconds. This means that the laceration meter will fill at the same rate as before, but successfully dodging blades will be a little more rewarding. And lastly, recoil when rapidly throwing blades can be tricky to deal with, particularly for those playing with a controller. Therefore, we have removed the recoil entirely. This will make your blades easier to control, making them more skill dependent. The downside is you won't be able to blame the recoil for the blade that you missed. Fast pace. To complement his quicker throws, we've also reviewed the Trickster's movement speed. The Trickster now moves at 4.6 meters per second by default, up from 4.4 meters per second. So that makes him, if you speak in percentages, he'll be a 115% speed killer instead of 110% speed. This puts him on par with other fast killers, and as a result, the Trickster's terror radius has been increased to 32 meters, up from 24 meters. This will not only help him close the gap during a chase, but also spend less time traversing the map looking for his next target. Combined, these changes will leave the Trickster feeling much more agile and fast-paced. This is going to be an interesting change for him. It's going to perhaps put him in powerhouse tier. All right, let's read a little more. Main event. Main event allows you to throw even more blades even faster. However, this required you to hit quite a few blades to activate first, taking several chases to charge up. This made it feel fairly rare for the killer, but also made it a little frustrating if you happen to be the unlucky survivor to be caught when it was finally activated. As a result, we're making the following changes. Main event now requires 6 blades to charge instead of 30, and main event's duration has been reduced to 5 seconds instead of 10. These changes will make main event available much more often, but require the killer to use it strategically to take advantage of it. That is a very interesting change. The add-ons. Lastly, we reviewed the effects of a handful of his add-ons. The Memento Blade's new effect, it will decrease the time between blades thrown by 5%. Inferno Wires increases the duration of main event by 40%, up from 25. G-Wound's Autograph, it has a new effect. It decreases the number of blades required to charge main event by 1, so you can get main event after 5 blades. And Tequila Moonrock increases the duration of main event by 60%. Fizz Spin Soda decreases the number of blades required to reach main event by 2, so you could get it in 4 blades. You get it in 4 blades and make it last, so increase by 60%. What would that be? So you could get it up to like 8 seconds. Yeesh. Waiting for You Watch increases the effect duration of main event by 1/4 of a second for each blade hit while it was active. Iridescent Photo Card, new effect for each blade, each consecutive blade hit, gain a stackable 1% haste effect up to a maximum of 7% haste. This bonus is lost when missing a blade or putting a survivor into the dying state. So you could become a 122% speed killer if you could hit 7 blades. Woo! In a row. All right. So yeah, these are going to be some very interesting changes to Trickster. I don't see a lot of Tricksters. I'm encouraged to see that change, although I don't genuinely enjoy playing against Trickster. I think that this is healthy for the game to make more killers viable, and the way that Dead by Daylight is going about it with these buffs, killer by killer, with these different changes to make them more viable, I think is healthy for the game, because you don't want people reliant on the same killers over and over again. The strength of the game of Dead by Daylight is definitely the roster. And if you don't have variety, if people are playing the same killers over and over again, then it gets stale, right? So they're playing to their strength. They have a roster, a rogues gallery of villains, and it only makes sense to make the bottom tier killers more viable, more powerful, so that they'll be played with more frequency. That just leans into Dead by Daylight's strength, in my opinion. So I love that they're doing pass-throughs on all of these killers. I wish they were doing more, but, you know, I know they can only do so much at once. But as long as they keep doing like one of these every 6-7 weeks, whatever it is, I think that's great. Okay, here we go. Made for this. Even a small speed boost can make a difference in the right hands, making some survivors very difficult to catch. Since Made for This would activate as soon as a survivor became injured, this perk would often become unavoidable. To make this fairer and create opportunities for killers to play around it, we have added an additional condition to the haste effect. After healing another survivor, gain the endurance status effect for up to 10 seconds. This part's unchanged. While you are affected by deep wounds, you run 3% faster. Since this is much more situational, this effect now applies while exhausted as well. With this change, the killer can potentially prevent Made for This speed boost from activating entirely by avoiding inflicting deep wounds on that survivor. This also ties both Made for This effects together, granting a way to gain deep wounds in order to make use of the haste effect. So, normally this would kick in as soon as you're injured. Now it's only going to kick in when you're in deep wounds, so it's much more situational. I guess it becomes kind of an anti-tunnel perk now. So if you get hit while you're under borrowed time, then you're in the deep wounds, right? And then that 3% would kick in, which would help you to escape more. Or if you're using off the record, which would extend your ability to absorb that hit and go into deep wounds, then we get the effect kick in as well. So yeah, it can be construed as more of a anti-tunnel perk. Or could you use this with Dead Hard? I guess you could use it with Dead Hard too, right? So it says you can use it while exhausted as well. So they definitely needed to do something for this. I've even seen people call Made for This paid for this because of the value in it. And I've seen people say, oh, I can't believe they nerfed this. It wasn't even that OP. When you look at the statistics that they gave us from, what is this, from the month between August 25th to September 25th, where this perk burst onto the scene as the #2 most picked survivor perk. At 21% of survivors had this in their kit. I think that right there demonstrates how powerful this perk became and why it just burst into the meta at #2 slot. And it needed to be looked at, honestly. And I for one am really surprised that they would do this early. I thought that they would let it go a little bit longer to maybe perhaps get some more end transmission sales in there for people who wanted this perk as the paid for this that people call it. So I'm surprised that they have made it, that they're making a change as early as they are. And, you know, kudos to them for the health of the game, because it can be very difficult to catch some survivors who are running made for this. So, yeah. All right. I think it's a good change. Garden of Joy. Joy for some, at least. We have gathered and reviewed feedback for the Garden of Joy map, and in this update, we'll be making a series of changes to improve gameplay. First, we turned our attention to the windows of the large house. Previously, there were several strong windows which granted survivors plenty of distance each time they were vaulted, making some chases drag on. We have reviewed the layouts of these windows and breakable walls to make chases in this building fairer. Nice. How about that parking lot tile? Second, we have rebalanced several pallet loops to bring them closer to the sweet spot where they're both useful to survivors and have the potential for killers to play around them. We've also cleaned up certain loops and removed some small objects which players might bump into by mistake. And lastly, we have made several art changes throughout the map to both improve visibility of objects which block your path and introduce small pieces of lore throughout the environment. I wonder what that is all about. The Red Forest. The Red Forest is home to both Mother's Dwelling and the Temple of Purgation. We have similarly reviewed feedback for both maps and are making a series of changes to improve gameplay on them as well. First and foremost, the size. These two maps are some of the largest in the game, and this can cause some gameplay issues, costing the killer a lot of time to cross from one end to the other in search of survivors. Reducing the size of both maps to bring them more in line with the rest of the realms. Second, we reviewed various pallet loops and reduced the amount of vegetation surrounding them, making it easier to identify loops at a glance. Okay. And with that, we've reached the end of this developer update. Everything mentioned in this post will be available to try in the public test build planned to start November the 8th, with the update going live on all platforms in the weeks following. We look forward to hearing what you think. Until next time, the Dead by Daylight team. Yeah, I was very curious that when they redid these Mother's Dwelling maps that were these huge maps that they still stayed survivor sided. So we just had a pass through on these in the Realm Beyond, right? So it was strange that they didn't make them more balanced on that. But hey, kudos to them for going back and reviewing it and realizing that it needed to be looked at again. So yeah, I like these changes. So we got the PTB coming on Tuesday. Still no mention of the new killer. So stay tuned for that, because that's presumably going to be in that PTB as well. Okay, so let's go back to the tweet here and read some of the questions that Dead by Daylight responded to on the Twitter thread here. Question: Made for This now causes exhaustion. With the new Deep Wounds activation condition, does this mean we can use Made for This even while exhausted now? Made for This does not cause exhaustion itself, but it can now be used even if you are exhausted, as long as you have deep wounds. Someone please tell me, where does this make any sense, or did I read it wrong? We've removed recoil entirely, making them more skill dependent. So they're saying that it took more skill to hit knives with recoil. Recoil did not follow any specific pattern. It was completely random. We're basically taking the element of luck out of it, so it's now completely dependent on your aim and whether or not the recoil decided to be extra brutal towards you. So that's why they took out the recoil. And I like the idea of player cards and banners, but does this mean we can also get the red glowing effect on all survivors and killers, and not just the ones that were in the game before the update came out? The red portrait backgrounds are completely separate. Player cards only appear in the corner of the menus in the scoreboard after the draw. I think that's all the responses that they had to the tweet about the developer update. Don't forget, you can get your 400,000 blood points again this month for Prime Gaming. I think they're doing this for like 6 months in a row on a schedule. or the Prime Gaming blood points. So if you have Amazon Prime, make sure you go claim your 400,000 blood points this month. Anyway, that's all I have for you today regarding the developer update. As always, I appreciate the time that you spend here with me on my channel. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, as it helps the channel a ton. Let me know what you think about all the stuff in this developer update. Is the made for this change too harsh? Are you excited for the Trickster changes? Are you excited for the map changes? Let me know all that stuff in the comments below. I read everything, and I like to hear your thoughts on all of it. But that's all I have for you today. Don't forget to take care of each other in and out of the fog, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye. It's a Gen Rush life for us. It's a Gen Rush life for us. Set a hiding, we do gens. Set a randoms, we got friends. It's a Gen Rush life.